All right, it says we're live. Yay. All right, so welcome everyone to our interview Thursday. Today we're talking to Kate Moynihan. And one of the reasons why I really wanted to talk to her, I happened to be on Instagram one day. I don't know how I was following you, but you came across my feed and you were posting it was you were giving away free artwork if people would buy your book and read it and post a review. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to check this out because I love to read. I'm a huge reader. And so I checked it out and it just sounded really interesting to me. I love the fact that you're in Michigan. I'm in Michigan. We're on opposite sides of the state. But, you know, we're from the same area. And I love the title of the book, a Lone Birch. I love birch trees. They're my favorite trees ever. We put a giant one in our front yard, a giant river birch, my husband and I. And I got the book and was just absolutely enamored with the story. I mean, I can't believe how amazing your life was and how much crap you had to go through to get to where you are today. But you know, it's funny because I was reading something, or no, I'm publishing a book too, and it's going to be coming out soon. And I just got back the final cover art for the book, and on the front of it, there's a picture of a lotus. And I had somebody ask me, what is the symbolism with the lotus? And I said, well, you know, in Buddhism, a lotus signifies growth. And it signifies growth and change in a way because a lotus doesn't grow if it's not in mud. So no mud, no flower. And she looked at me kind of interestingly and she's like, okay. And I was like, so it's the same with pretty much any flower. You know, if you don't have any shit in the form of compost, you get no flowers.
Yeah.
So if you don't go through the crap, you're not going to really bloom. And in this book, man, you went through some serious crap. And you came out on the other end. I mean, it's amazing what you've been able to accomplish. And, you know, even just following your dreams as an artist, there are some. So I married into an artistic family. My sister-in-law has a BFA, my mother-in-law has a BFA, and my husband is a really talented artist, but he works in automotive sales. Don't ask me why. But, you know, being in an artistic family and being around a lot of art, I see a lot of artists who struggle. And it's really sad because they have the mentality that, you know, they really can't make a career as an artist because so many people have said the whole, you know, starving artist thing. So if you're creating art, you're not really going to be able to do anything significant with your life. And a lot of people have a tendency to poo-poo artists and say, oh, you know, it's just something that you do for fun or as a hobby. It's not really a career. You know, you need to get a job working, doing something real, and then do that on the side. And if you can make money with it, then it's a bonus. And, you know, you're someone who's actually proven that wrong, which is really awesome. And you're like a real person who is in Michigan. You know, you're not like Andy Warhol or, you know, any of the other famous artists. You know, you're a real person who actually did a really good job, you know, following your heart. And I'd really like to talk to you a little bit about that. So, you know, in your journey from being a normal person who was married and had children and worked as a registered nurse, you know, in a regular job, and then you just decided like, I can't do this anymore. I can't, it's not fulfilling. So
I can elaborate a little bit on that if you'd like me to.
Yeah, so
one of your missions tonight is to focus somewhat on living with intent, and that sometimes people find it easier to go the path of what society expects us to do. And that was me, because I was raised in the 1950s. My mom was a homemaker. And I idolized every word that she would share with me about how she fell in love with my dad, and that um, she married right out of high school and it was the happiest time of her life, and that how much joy she had in staying home. And so I expected my role to stay home. It was tradition because her mom had stayed home and her mother's mother had stayed home. My Aunt Dee Dee stayed home. And if you remember in the 1950s, Donna Reed, Ozzie and Harriet, those were all the popular TV shows. And that's who I emulated. And I just thought that was the role for me. And what I didn't realize at that young age is that I wasn't looking inside at who I was, at my inner self. I just assumed I would take this role in this tradition. And I did. I chased boys as I was a tween. And in high school, I fell in love with someone and hoped my high school sweetheart would propose. And when he didn't propose, that's where I picked the quick technical program to be a registered nurse. Because college was never brought to me as I was upgrowing. It was just, I would be a homemaker. Yeah. That was what expected of me. And so I convinced my folks I could reach for this 22-month registered nurse program. And to myself, I knew, well, I can handle that. And I'll make even a better mother and a better person to stay home and do the domestic life. So I did. I graduated from nursing school. I got married. I had 2 wonderful children. I was living in this 2-story subdivision with the picket fence, the whole works. And that's not the feelings I had of this glorious happiness like my mother always painted the picture. I felt isolated. I felt alone. I was confused. I couldn't figure out why. Why could my husband come home from work, not even take his coat off, plunk down on the floor, start building Lego towers with the boys, and was happy as could be? And I said, well, do you ever get restless and do you want to go out? No, this is just fine. I just want this time at home. And so I went to my mom and I said to Mom, I said, did you ever get restless, when you were raising the kids? And she said, oh, it was the happiest time of my life. And she said, Kathleen, how can you even be that selfish and be restless when you have 2 cars? I had 1 car and your dad used to drive it to work and be gone till 6 o'clock every day. And you have 2 cars. You can go any place you want to go. And so my mom didn't really help me a whole lot. So I tried my mother-in-law. She raised 5 children and stayed home. And she says, oh, Kathy, she says, those children, they're only young once and they're going to be gone just like that. So just enjoy those days. And I tried. I asked my neighbor. She was a preschool teacher. And I said, do you have something that could help me engage the boys and maybe keep them busier? And she said, yeah, here's my lessons plans for a week. So I spread them out, got ready with the kids, and oh man, they lasted an hour and we were done through the whole week. And I didn't know who to turn to. And I kept thinking, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? I don't understand. And I just had this ache in my chest, and it was a terrible position to be in. And I just kind of withered. And would you like me to share where I went from there?
Yeah. So, I know reading your book, you talked about like you actually gave a name.
I did.
To the feeling that you had in your chest. You named it Tonka. And you're like, I just have this feeling in my chest where just, something isn't right and you can't quite put your finger on it. And how are you dealing with that?
The story behind that was actually, I was in the Colonial home with my 2 sons. They were preschoolers, and we were on the floor, and they had their big rig trucks, ramming them here, ramming them there. And this ache in my chest never really went away. And it was like drilling a hole through my heart. But as the kids were playing with these huge Tonka trucks, literally, one of them ran them into my ankle, and I had this shooting pain. And I thought, oh, Tonka, what? That just hurts. I thought, that's the same pain I've got in my chest. And so I did name it Tonka, and I referred to it in the book. It kind of gave it a name. But what I find most interesting is that I was able to name it, but I didn't understand it. I still didn't know why I had it. Nobody else seemed to have it. I just had it. And it was interesting. I took an adult watercolor class just on a whim. I was a crafter. My mom taught me how to sew. We were homemakers. We cooked, we did all of that. And I took this watercolor class, and I had the boys in for a checkup at the doctor's office. And it happened to be the doctor's office that I worked at before I had children and stayed home. And one of the physicians says, oh, I'd love to see your artwork. that'd be interesting. And I thought, well, geez, it's just a hobby. My mom thinks it's a hobby. My husband thinks it's a hobby. It's just a class. He says, no, bring it in, bring it in. So I bring in a couple watercolor paintings and he says, wow, I really like these. You should sell them. You should take another class. I said, well, no, it's a hobby. He said, no, really, just go ahead, take another class. You could do that. And he gave me confidence and I liked what I was hearing. And so I opened up and I kind of shared some of this Tonka feeling in my chest. And he said, well, you don't have to stay home. And I looked at him and I thought, what do you mean? To myself, I don't have to stay home. It's tradition. It's what I was born to do. He said, you can work outside the house, come back in a couple hours part-time here. And so I did. And it was his soothing, soft, savory voice was like this invisible thread that just kind of pulled me in because I wasn't getting support from my husband. I wasn't getting support I didn't know where to go. So I listened to him. And as our relationship grew, sadly, it pulled me away. It pulled me to follow him. He said, I've got a prescription for you. Let's just leave all of this behind. Here's a fistful of airline tickets he gave me. And he said, I promise you can get home and see the boys as often as you want. I promise you this. I promise you that. He painted this rose garden, and I believed every word that's where I would be happy. And so I followed him to Bismarck, North Dakota. I moved 1,000 miles away. Can't believe it. It still just gives me, Tonka was bad, but there's just shivers still thinking what I did. But it's the older person looking back, not the one in this overwhelming, unhealthy state that I was too weak, that I relied on somebody else to make me happy. And so I get out to North Dakota, and 83 days later, he says, this isn't working for me. He said, I think I need something else. It's like, oh, man, wait, I'm confused here. But I had no choice. And sure, I could have packed my bag, took my suitcase back to Michigan. Oh, I was humiliated because, this was 1989. And in 1989, the custody rate for dads to have custody of children was 9%. Okay, so my ex had the custody. 72% were the mothers had custody. And I wasn't one of those women. So my ex-husband was the hero and I was the villain. And every time I went back to Michigan, I'd get these skulls and this awful look of, who were you? How could you do this? And so I had no confidence. I was so embarrassed that I couldn't tell them that this Robert, the doctor, asked me to move out. So I hid. I literally hid in Bismarck. All I could afford was this basement apartment the size of a cracker box, just this small thing that was in the lower level of an older home. And my roommates, shame and guilt. I was there. And I thought, what am I going to do? It's the first time I was really, really alone. And then that's when I realized that my whole life, finally, it dawned on me at 30 that I had followed my high school sweetheart. I went to his college. I followed my husband to 5 different states. I followed Robert the doctor to Bismarck, all looking for somebody else to make me happy. And I know it sounds trite that you have to find this inner happiness to be strong, but it really is true, because if I didn't suck it up, literally, and the only way I was going to get back to see those boys was I had to do something. And it turned out that I had taken some of my watercolor paintings to the Arts Council, and they gave me this teaching job to teach adult ed because I knew something that they didn't know. And then they wanted me to teach more classes. So here Bismarck actually liked me and they praised me. But in Michigan, I'd go back to see the boys, and it was just this awful condescending look and these sneers, and I just felt terrible. So I thought, if Bismarck likes me in the arts and I have these artsy jobs that I'm living off of, maybe if I went back to college into a marketing major and using my nursing and my artistic skill, I could move back to Michigan with my head high and be proud. And that was my goal. And that's what kept giving me encouragement. I put this package together for the hospital that was remodeling their peds unit. They took it and they gave me like a whole ton of work. They just kept supporting me. And so that was what pulled me out of this isolation of feeling humiliated by what Robert's decision was. And I could actually find strength in myself, and I could pick myself up, and I could move forward. And it's what I was able to teach my sons. And that's just so exciting to me. That gave me peace of mind.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I really loved about reading. You actually say in your book that you finally realized that you needed to, you know, make yourself happy, that you could no longer rely on somebody else to make yourself happy. And then you have the one friend, I can't remember her name, starts with a P, Patty or something like that. And you said she was like always upbeat and happy, and she was always the one that would kind of help pull you up by your bootstraps when you really weren't feeling good. And it's really good to have people like that in your life, people that you know that if you're feeling down, because you can know that you need to make yourself happy, um, but you're still gonna be sad about things. I mean, you're still gonna find things that are upsetting in your life. You're gonna have opportunities that come up that you're not gonna get, and it's gonna make you feel really upset, and a lot of other things like that. So it's really nice to be able to surround yourself with people who can really help you and support you. And yeah, Robert did drag you 1,000 miles away from your kids, but you know what? He actually did something that other people weren't doing for you. They worked, he was telling you that, there's something good inside of you that you need to cultivate besides being a mother and being a wife and being, a homemaker. And despite what happened, we all have to go through crap in order to be able to learn and grow. We will not grow if we don't, face these things. And you were able to move forward. I mean, you move forward like a steamroller despite every single setback that was put in your way. I mean, you had so many setbacks. I mean, it was crazy. When you went to the college, what was it, in Duluth?
I was in Bismarck, but it was a community college, and I wanted to get a 4-year degree because I thought it would give me more credibility. So I'd have to transfer to Minneapolis, and I drove the 8 hours in a snowstorm, and they didn't even have my appointment. And then they were going to do nothing for me. And when I got back to Bismarck, I was doing a little cottage industry to earn money, and the team had gotten all the collages done on time, and Bismarck was just there supporting me. And so I did move back to Michigan.
Yeah.
And I did make my goal. I never did get my 4-year degree, but I learned so much of small business and marketing and public speaking. I joined our National Association of Picture Framing, and I was just able to kind of keep going down and exploring options of how to productively earn this life as an artist. And it was a lot of trial and error. And when I moved back to Michigan, I was able to open a retail store, and I had 25 wonderful years in downtown Holland along the lake shore community. And it was a real blessing. And I've had my kids with me, and we are still supportive of each other to this day. So I never really did leave them. I just had a different relationship. And I used to write them every day, draw them cartoons. And we'd call every Sunday back then because it was just the regular long distance. So we never lost track. It was just different. I was not one of the 72%, but that doesn't mean it was right or wrong, but I was still able to help them.
Right. And, it would be really, and it's super easy for a lot of people to look at all the mistakes that they've made in their lives and, just spend their entire life in this never ending pity party. Right. I mean, it's super easy.
Yes.
Being positive is not easy. Choosing to be happy is not easy. Choosing to move forward despite a setback is not easy. And you've done it, and it's amazing. And like, your journey has just been crazy. I can't believe how much you've actually been through. And then, one of the things that I really love in the book is when you decided to become a full-time artist and you said, this is who I am, this is who I'm going to be, and no matter what, this is how I'm going to make my life be really good. You actually took that another step further and you redefined yourself with a, completely different name. I mean, it's not like a completely different name. It's, a shortened version of your given name, but that in itself right there, just saying, I am no longer going to be Kathleen. I am no longer going to be Kathy. I am now Kate, and Kate is the artist, and this is who I'm going to be. When you take that and you grab onto that persona, you've created this entirely different person. You're like, this is who I'm going to be. I mean, how was that for you? How empowering was that for you?
Sometimes when you're in healing from a crisis, you reach for positive people is a great way to get strength. But you reach for strange things. And it's true. My birth name is Kathleen. That was my mom. And she thought it was princess-like. And I became Kathy quickly as I was a tomboy. And I had it all through school. It seemed to fit me. It was the nickname to Kathleen back in the 50s. And like I said, when I would go back to Michigan, when I was unexpectedly living alone in Bismarck, and I'd go back and I get those sneers of just, oh, Kathy. Every time I heard my name, Kathy, it just was associated with this bad mother, and I couldn't shake it. I'd try to regroup, and I had my goal of getting back. I just needed a little bit more money, and I'd hear Kathy, and it would just make me wilt again. And so when I decided to go to college, I thought, I can't hang on to this negative condensation around a name, the symbolism. And I thought, well, why not be Kate? It's short, it was strong, and it was something I could latch onto. And when I heard my name, Kate, my head would lift, and they would say something nice about me. And it was like, I just really don't need to be brought back down as Kathy.
Mm-hmm.
And Kate has stayed with me for 30 years, and it's been great. So I did, it seems something really strange. My mom still doesn't understand why I'm called Kate, but it's okay. She loves me. She raised me the way she knew how to raise me. It's just the way it was, what was expected.
Yeah.
But I had to do something for myself to stay strong. And part of that was my name.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you have to redefine yourself. You have to, become a different person. And, becoming a different person sometimes entails taking on a different name or, calling yourself something different, whether it's a nickname or something like that. And, you have all these negative associations, like you said, with these different names. And it's easier for you to not get mired down in the muck of negative associations with these old names. So it's nice to be able to, see that you actually gave yourself a different, name and said, this is me. This is the news.
I did, yes.
Me. And, and you walked into wherever and you're like, this is me. And you're just going to have to deal with it. And I love that. That's so awesome. So how do you think your life would have been if you hadn't actually decided to do something for yourself?
Well, it's interesting because we can't go back, and we aren't productive when we're withering and drowning in sorrow or regrets. You're just not productive, and you can't help anyone. And I've got an example for that. It's back when I moved to Michigan, and we were actually living above the store in this downtown environment. And my sons were responsible for household small business chores, and Adam, my youngest, had to take these huge vintage posters rolled in a tube and get them ready for sidewalk sale and present them as one piece so people could grab them and go. And I said, he's watching the ball game, and I said, you've got to get that done by morning. He said, sure, Mom, no problem. So at 8 the next morning, I zip downstairs, and there's my posters still in the tube. I hike it upstairs, and I'm just angry with this kid, and I shake him awake, and he rolls out of his, oh, Mom, I'm sorry, I forgot. And he stands up, and his green eyes meet mine, and he says, I've got to tell you something. He's 14. And I said, what? I'm holding back my anger. And he said, I'm never going to be your artsy guy. I just don't have a passion for your product. He said, I just don't love it. He said, I'll get this done. I know it's my responsibility. I'll be out there. I'll go do it. But it's just not me. And he shuffled off, and I stood there frozen because I was right back to that girl in the Colonial who had tried to be the stay-home mom and had Tonka in my chest, just drilling a hole through it, not knowing where to go, what to do, what was wrong with me because everybody else was happy.
Mm-hmm.
And Adam's telling me what his passion wasn't at 14. It was like, hallelujah, because as a parent, my biggest responsibility is to help this kid grow and to excel. And I don't know what he wanted as a passion, but I knew what he didn't want. And I could help him. I could help encourage him through his teens on to try other things and to reach out and to grow. And I could do that because I was strong. I was strong enough in myself and my own confidence that he didn't have to like my product. He could be himself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I don't know what life would have been like if I hadn't left nursing and gone in the arts, but I know I was stronger and I've been able to help others because of that. And I think that's why we're put here. That's what we can do in our life to be productive, is not just help your family, but your friends, and be supportive and trade ideas and prosper. And I just think I'm just thankful it went that way.
Yeah.
In the end, I know that there's sad times, but you just march on because you can't go back. You have to face reality, or else you're suffering over something you have no control of. But you can take control and move forward, and your family will stay with you.
Yeah. And there's so many people, and this is one of the things that I really try to get people to understand, is that people will be supportive of you if you truly make them understand, like, this is who I am. I can't be anything else. Yeah. And the ones that aren't going to be supportive of you, they don't need to be in your life. Like, not everybody's meant to be in your life forever, not even your family, unfortunately.
No, my mom is still in my life, but I don't go to her with questions because it's still, well, you've got 2 cars and I've never had that. I don't know what more you want out of things.
Yeah.
Well, she doesn't fuel me. She supports me and she'll, be kind to me and gracious,
Mm-hmm.
but she just doesn't get me because she has her own values and her own traditions. Right. But we can still have Sunday dinners together.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, but you really need to understand, like, deep inside of you, what you truly love and enjoy, and do that. Don't do what your family thinks you should do or what society thinks you should do. And, just truly be yourself, really understand what it is that you're meant to do. I mean, you were meant to be an artist. That's what you were meant to do. And, thankfully, you figured it out, and you actually, went on to become a really great artist, and you've created tons of amazing art that's, I don't know if the art that you did is still in the hospital or not.
Yeah, it's around. It's even in Holland Hospital. So I've been very blessed, very blessed.
Yeah.
And I did promise my viewers that I had 3 wise words for them. And if we have a couple minutes, I'd like to just sum them up.
I would love for you to share. I'm just going to switch feet here. I said I was sitting on my foot, and my foot was I would just stand up on it, and it's like, nope.
Well, I call them the 3 R's, and it's realistic, it's regroup, and request. And I'll sum them up quickly. Realistic, most of us know that. You need a realistic goal. But what's interesting is I tend to be an impulsive and practical at time. I want instant results. It's why I'm a good painter. I take this white canvas and I can throw some color on there, and within minutes I start having a motif and I get instant gratification. But unfortunately, when you set goals and you try to make changes, or you're trying to overcome a challenge, it's not instant. It takes breaking it down. And I had met a counselor out in Bismarck, and she said to me, Kate, I want you to journal every day for the healing process. And I said, why do I have to journal every day? I said, I'm just in this misery. She said, no, write it out every day, and don't go back until 3 weeks. And in 3 weeks, then you can go back and look at the first day. And then, only then, are you going to see progress. Because if you don't take that longer time, day to day to day, you're just going to feel like you're at status quo. But if you can wait 3 weeks, be realistic. Like I said, the R, you're going to see progress. And so my second one is to regroup. And that's kind of like Murphy's Law. You take one step forward, you get two steps back. And I've got an example for that. I told you a little bit about the cottage industry with the collages.
Yeah.
Well, I had done a realistic tree with some seashells, and a colleague friend introduced me to this company that sold thousands to Pier 1 and Spiegel. And she said, send it off. And I did. And I got an order for 1,000 pieces. This was big money. This was my moving to Michigan money. And so Claudia sent an idea off. And I didn't get a reorder. And just like that, my money was gone. But Claudia got a reorder. It was my watercolor technique that I had taught her. It's kind of nautical, and she put some seashells on it. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, why is Claudia getting reorders when she took my idea and my seashells? And I'm just blaming Claudia with this anger and this spite. And here's Tonka again, right in my chest. And then I stopped and realized, because I had gotten a little bit stronger by then, and I thought, if I want to teach my sons about responsibility, it's not my watercolor technique. Somebody taught me years ago. Seashells are a dime a dozen. If you want to be responsible, Kate, you need to create a new idea, not blame Claudia. You need to regroup and start over. So that's my second word, regroup. And my last word is request. And you hit on this already, but it's asking for help. And, I did reach for my mom, my mother-in-law, but I later learned that if you know your values and who you are, back to that, the message we've been giving today, and live your life with intent, you're going to surround yourself with those positive people. And you mentioned my friend. I was back visiting my sons, and our visits were just joyous. And then they'd hop out of the car and they'd get on their bikes and grab their mitts, and they'd be off to Little League because they had a wonderful life with their dad. And once they closed that car door, I was just left with this horrible, here's Tonka again in my chest, because I missed them so much. But yet I knew it was best for them to be in one school, one house, one consistency. And I had to be the adult and be the parent and be the one to say goodbye. But I was miserable. And I pulled into the gas station, and someone recognized me. Oh, Kathy. And I'm thinking, oh God, what now? But she said, you look awful. So I just blurted it out. I said, I just said goodbye to my sons. It's just an awful thing to do. She says, you need to come to my house for a glass of wine. And do you know that she befriended me, and she had me to her house every time I said goodbye to my sons? I was welcome. And she opened her door, and she could help me by just listening to get my confidence back, that if I wanted to move back, I had to earn money and I had to work to get there. And that's the strength I needed to get back within 2 years. And if I didn't have friends like Cindy saying, come on, Kate, you can pull this off, it's hard. It's hard being alone. So those are my 3 words. They are be realistic, regroup, and reach out for help. So
yeah, and this is one thing that I like to tell people a lot too, is asking for help is not a sign of weakness.
Oh, I know. We have to be stronger.
Not want to ask for help because we don't want people to know that we can't do it all. But I'm here to tell you, we can't do it all ourselves. We can't. We just can't. It's impossible.
Yeah.
And people truly want to help. So if you don't ask for help, they're never going to know. And everybody's suffering from something. Everybody is suffering from something. Everybody's suffering is different, but we're all going through something. And somebody that is going through something similar, and they can understand and help you through it. So, if you're having issues, if you don't think anybody will understand you, just ask, put a post on Facebook. I mean, it's amazing how many different people you get to respond to stuff. Like if you say something like, I'm feeling totally this today, and someone else will be like, oh my God, I felt like that yesterday. And it's amazing how many people will be like, oh yeah, I've been there, done that. And you're like, wow, really? Okay. Yeah. So, don't be afraid or ashamed to ask for help. If more people would ask for help, then I think we would be in a lot better place.
Well, it makes us stronger. And then, like we said, when we're stronger, we're more productive, and then we're a productive society. And I think that's what we all really want.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's always nice to have somebody to lean on.
Yeah.
you know? So, it's been awesome talking to you.
Thank you. Yes, it has.
Put a link to Amazon for this book in the comments below. It's an amazing book. It wasn't very expensive. I don't know. Can you still read it on Amazon for free?
Yes, or if you're a Kindle member, you can read it for free.
Yeah. So you can do the Kindle version for free if you have the Amazon. Was it the library or something like that?
I think a Kindle membership.
Yeah. Highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. It's such a great book. Yeah.
And I'd love to hear from them too. So they can, my email's in there, and
yeah. I'll put a link to your website, and I'll put a link to your Facebook page, and you know, that way people can find you. Oh, and Kate on her website, again, I'll put a link below in the comments.
The coloring pages. Yeah.
So she does coloring pages. And because, you know, trying to be mindful and just kind of get away from everything, I color a lot. And it's a really great way for you to just lose yourself and just kind of get away from everything. So when I'm finding myself really stressed out, I grab the coloring book, and I found these amazing things. I'll put the link for these too. They are erasable pens. I don't use markers or colored pencils now when I'm coloring in those. I use these erasable pens because then even if I decide I don't like the color, I can erase it. They're not terribly expensive, but they're super cool. So I'll put a link for that too. But yeah, I love to color, and it just takes me away, and it makes me feel peaceful, and then I can get back into whatever I was doing and be more productive. So,
and coloring, I don't know if you know this, but it does activate the creative right side of your brain, and that can also help with problem solving.
yeah.
So besides the medicinal meditation and the relaxation, you know, it can help you conquer some of your other challenges too. So it's not a kindergarten project. It's has a lot of merits to it. So there are 3 coloring pages that are free that you can download and print yourself. They're on my homepage. So please take them. We'd love to share them.
Yeah. So I'll put a link in the comments, and you know, I'm going to go and print myself some copies so that I can do some coloring, because I'm going on vacation. So
hooray!
Yeah. So I can get some relaxation in while I'm relaxing.
Well, thank you so much.
I really want to thank you for taking the time out to talk to us and tell us a little bit about your story. And, you know, we really appreciate you being here and sharing it with everybody, you know, everything that you went through. I mean, honestly, you know, it's an amazing book, and I really can't, it really touched me, and I'm so grateful that I came across it by accident. Well, there really are no accidents. Like everything, you're exactly where you are, when you're supposed to be there, but you have to recognize that you're there.
Yes.
See all the signs, and I saw this sign, and I picked it up and bought the book, and now I'm talking to you. Yeah. So I'm hoping that more people will read it and, you know, maybe get something from it, and, you know, learn a thing or two about, you know, following their heart.
That's what we really hope. If we can help one person, we've done our job. So that's exciting.
That's all it takes is one person, and that one person inspires someone else, and that one person inspires someone else, and, you know, it just becomes this giant snowball effect. So,
well, thank you. It was my pleasure.
All right. We'll talk to you soon. Take care.
Okay. Good night.